Welcome back to The Edge. Hey, Facebook bans are announced by Russia. Website security is really important due to some of the increases in Russian cyber attacks. We're discussing how you can help Ukraine during this incredibly dangerous time. You're listening to News from The Edge for the week of February 28th, 2022 here on Edge of the Web Radio.
From the Edge of the Web studios, here's what we're looking at this week.
So welcome to the Edge of the Web Radio. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks, owner of Site Strategic, a digital marketing firm based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. We're covering SEO and digital marketing news for the week, separate from our weekly interview series. You can check out all that over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. This is the Site Strategics digital marketing news desk of Edge of the Web. Hey, we got a special edition of Edge today. I wanted to pull together a number of a couple of my key friends to be able to talk about what's going on in Ukraine, as that certainly does not only affect the world, but also we're seeing a lot of our friends in marketing being affected as well. So I wanted to pull together some information and talk about what's happening for this week on Edge of the Web. So joining me to get his take on all things SEO, but also his take on these particular topics is Morty Oberstein. He's the head of SEO branding over at Wix. And we also have Jason Bernard, the brand SERP guy, also friend of the show. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for joining us, guys. And obviously, there's so much that's happening right now that it's a terrible time for our friends in the Ukraine. And usually we're cutting it up on the show, having a blast. This is obviously a somber moment, but I did want to reach out to you and talk to you and see what you could help, how you could help kind of share what's happening on social media, how we can actually share some news that's going on. And we're going to be getting to a number of those stories. This is certainly not a political commentary. This is above my pay grade, fully understanding what in the world's happening. But we are seeing a number of our friends and even family members that are being affected right now. Any thoughts of what's happening in the world right now? Morty.
It's just terribly sad. I mean, my overwhelming feeling has just been sad. I don't have any brilliant insight to offer on this.
Yeah.
It's just it's unbelievable. Like, it's just unbelievable how quick it happened. It's unbelievable how insane it is. Mm-hmm. And there's this terrible situation people are in. It's just tremendously sad.
It is. And Jason, we had just had this conversation here. We were talking a little bit before this show. What are your thoughts? You have certainly some friends that are in the Ukraine. We all do. What are your thoughts during this period of time?
Yeah, I can't agree with Morty. It's shocking. It's I can't actually wrap my head around it. I can't believe it, and I can't get any conceptual grip on what's happening and how people in the Ukraine are dealing with it. What I have seen is they're dealing with it with a great deal of courage and bravery and a phlegmatic approach that I simply know I wouldn't be able to bring to the table. I'm in contact daily with the friends I have over there, and there's an awful lot of, what would you call it? Standing up for themselves and saying, we're just going to stop the Russian invasion. We're going to defend our freedom. And I think that's the big one. And it's defending our freedom. And that is phenomenally important. That's the key point for me.
Absolutely. There's such a resolve coming out of the Ukraine that we do want to actually showcase a number of individuals on this show who are actually being forthcoming with information, but also sharing how to help in this space. We are going to report a couple of pieces of news this week, and we wanted to dive into it. First and foremost, seeing that news still goes on, and we got to be paying attention to how it's actually affecting the not only the news in marketing, but news of just how digital actually affects everything. This is, I was talking to both of you over the weekend, and I'm looking at this as, Vietnam was the first war that was televised. And I truly believe that this is the first social war. We're seeing such an outpouring, and you better believe that Putin is probably quite surprised of how much of a pushback he's not only getting from Ukraine, but these world entities. This is not going unchecked, and it's amazing to see what's happening in social media. But to the point, Russia's blocking a lot of that coming into Russia. So the first article I wanted to bring up from Andrew Hutchinson over at Social Media Today, Russia's announcing a partial ban on Facebook amid the escalating Ukraine conflict. With the conflict in Ukraine escalating by the hour, social media has become a key element in raising awareness and connecting Russian and Ukrainian citizens, along with the rest of the world, to the real-time updates of the unfolding situation. But that just actually became harder for at least Russian users, with the Russian government restricting access to Facebook over the claims that the platform restricted the accounts of 4 Russia media outlets. So this was like in response to what that they said Facebook was doing on February 24th. Facebook restricted the official accounts of 4 Russian media outlets. And Sedna TV, RIA, Novista, as well as Lenta.ru and Gazeta.ru internet websites. Such actions in relation to Russian internet resources and the media are prohibited by federal law. So they reacted, or maybe used this as a reaction, to be able to shut down Facebook access coming into the entire country. We also see that this is happening with Twitter. They're actually blocking Twitter access as the Ukraine invasion escalates even further. And this was updated on the 26th here, just 2 days ago, and it's still continuing. According to a report from the internet monitoring group NetBlocks, beginning Saturday morning, NetBlocks saw failed and heavily throttled connections across every major Russian telecom provider, including Rostelecom, MTS, Beeline, and Megaphone. The Russians are still able to access Twitter through VPN services, but direct connections are restricted. So this is a social war. There's so much communication happening, but it's not now getting into Russia on the pretense that they were being blacklisted or restricted on Facebook. Gentlemen, what do you think about this blackout that's coming into Russia? It's a propaganda machine. We've known that for such a long time, but this is the conduit. This is the tether to the entire world, right?
I mean, this is one of the things that makes it scary. What's happening? You have the Russian people being disconnected from the outside world. That's like social pressure or social constructs are an important part of this whole equation, and that's being removed.
Yep.
I mean, it just speaks to how just insane this guy is, Putin. It's just unbelievable. And being disconnected from and doing something like that, right? If you feel confident you're so right and righteous and whatever, and doing this is obviously a testament to the fact that you really don't believe this, exactly. Which is. I don't even know what to say anymore. I can't wrap my head around any of this. It's so. I feel like we're like back, 75 years ago in times of World War II. You hear this kind of propaganda machine and warmongering, and it's just so hard to believe and so hard to put words to and so hard to wrap my mind around. As Jason said before, you have millions of people being disconnected from their social media, being disconnected from the rest of the world. It's just, how does that, it's hard to imagine that now in 2022, what that means and what the impact of that is on the Russian people.
Exactly. It's not just cutting telephone lines. The world is social. The world is communicating and expecting a response, and how this is going unchecked. I mean, there's certainly sanctions. There's certainly, and again, this is not a political show. This is just bringing some awareness to what the situation is. But whenever the entire country can't see the 2 major platforms of communication, it's certainly a whole nother degree of severity. It's almost like this old world meeting new world mentality. Jason, we talked about this again before the show. Thoughts about this blackout that we're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the Second World War. I mean, it was 75 years ago, 77 years ago. And history shows that humanity forgets these massive, massive wars very quickly. This would appear to be something that people have forgotten. And it's now being brought back right in front of us. And the idea of 70 whatever years ago it was, if I was in the UK, I would just get all my news from the BBC. I couldn't get any news from anywhere else. It would be very slow. The radio was controlling news, as it were. And as Mordy says, it's cutting telephone lines is very, very old school, and now the information is flowing, but as you said, not into Russia, which makes it even more dangerous in the sense that Russian people can't or are not seeing the full picture, and they've obviously got the Russian propaganda machine pushing behind it. And the cruelty and the aggression that Russia have shown to Ukraine is simply not getting through, which makes it difficult for the Russian people to actually understand what's going on and potentially protest, move forwards, change government. I don't want to go too far down that route, but it is very strange to realize that the information is flying around the world, but not in Russia.
Not in Russia. However, Russians are still coming out en masse in 52 cities, I think I read over the weekend, actually protesting. So it's amazing to see what's happening, even with the absence of that information. So I wanted to shift over to another article that is quite relevant about this particular news. From Search Engine Journal, Roger Monti rolled out an article regarding advisories to increase website security after Russian attack. You need to be able to fight back against increased cyber attacks. That with some free tools that are out there. WordPress security company WordFence issued an advisory that recommended to be vigilant for an increase in hacking activity after Russian attack on Ukraine, and offered tips to help prevent becoming a victim to state-sponsored cyber attacks. Additionally, the United States government Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, updated their Shields Up webpage, adding more information about possible cyber attacks originating from Russia. So many in the SEO community don't consider website security as an SEO issue, but you better believe it's devastating whenever a site goes down. So WordFence advises higher vigilance. Obviously, if you run a business, you've got to make sure that you're paying attention to this. So they offered a few steps to follow to help protect against cyber attacks, learn about social engineering and phishing attacks, enable multi-factor authentication. WordPress plugin developers should be extra vigilant to becoming compromised and serving as a way to spread exploits to all client sites. Watch your logs in order to spot suspicious activities from hackers. Keep an eye out for new and malicious files appearing on your website. So there's a good deal of information here. Some free tools that are out there. Immunet Antivirus by Cisco for Microsoft Windows, Microsoft Defender Application Guard. There's a free Cloudflare and unmetered distributed denial of service protection, free Cloudflare Universal Security Socket Layer Certificate, Quad 9 for Android, Quad 9, Protect Shield, and Vane. We also recommend Securi. It's a great web-based firewall protection. So there's a number of citations on this article. Read them all, but more importantly, keep your website updated, keep your plugins updated. If you're executing from an older version of WordPress and an older version of WordPress plugins, those are always the easiest route in to be able to exploit a website. Gentlemen, I don't know if you have any experience with hacked websites, but we did want to bring this to everybody's attention here. Morty, thoughts on the web properties inside of people's control and what could be vulnerable out there?
I mean, what we're looking at, going back to what Jason was talking about, the world forgetting about the war. So as somebody who personally is very much impacted by the Second World War, if the world doesn't stop this, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not an expert on this, but in my personal opinion, if the world doesn't stop this is not about Ukraine. This is about a very different dynamic for the world going forward. These kind of people don't stop with one country. If the world doesn't stop him now, you could be looking at a very different digital dynamic going forward where these kind of things become part of the norm. Right? Whereas now, it's an article you might not think is, site security is part of SEO, which again is silly, but it's a rare thing. All things considered, I know it's not rare. You have all sorts of security issues happening, but given the volume of web pages and sites on the web, it's not an everyday occurrence for most people. However, if the world doesn't stop this guy from doing this, and this continues, and I firmly believe that if we don't stop him, it will continue. It will not stop with Ukraine. Yep. That could be a very dangerous web dynamic going forward, and I don't know what you do about that. That's just a very dangerous world. It's a very different war world than, again, 75 years ago, because you have things like being able to hack people's websites. I hope that doesn't come to that, but I'm very afraid that it will.
Absolutely. Jason, 2 cents into that space.
Yeah, I mean, to carry on from what Mordy was saying, I sent out something on Facebook the other day, and it struck me that I think the history will show that we were relying, the rest of the world were relying on Ukraine to stand up and stop, as Morty said, this from propagating, because it's certainly not going to stop with Ukraine. And given the courage that they've shown, they're showing, I think history will also show, or I thought last week that history would show that we didn't deserve them, that we didn't merit such protection, as it were. They're obviously fighting for their freedom, but I think it's a fight for the entire world, and the entire world is looking to Ukraine, and that's phenomenally difficult to understand how they must be feeling. But one thing we were talking about earlier on is the EU, who is traditionally incredibly slow to move, have moved very quickly for once.
Right.
And I'm from the EU. I'm a great believer in Europe, and they are slow for a reason. It's 27 member states trying to come to an agreement when they all have very differing interests. And the fact that Zelensky has managed to get them all together to agree on a certain number of actions to put pressure on Putin is an astonishing achievement. And getting those 27 to agree within the space of a few days to the level of action they've actually taken is astonishing. And as we were talking earlier on, the support that they're giving, or we are giving, if I'm from the Europe as well, we're giving Ukraine is astonishing. But I'd just like to point out that doesn't excuse us from donating ourselves. And we'll come to that later on. We have, I feel, a moral obligation as people supporting Ukraine, or if you're supporting Ukraine, which I certainly am, is to donate, because yes, governments can give money, but we too can give money, and we too can take action, and we'll see that later on.
You're both very astute and focused here. This is a world problem. So we're dealing with a world that is aware of what's happening here, and it's permeating every spot. It's not just in news; it's across the entire world in social. And there also needs to be some responsibility in social media. There are people flying off the handle, and I mean, Twitter, you just want to push away from the table on some of the heinous responses that are out there during this period of time. And on top of that, such a level of propaganda that's out there. But there's a lot of information coming out and being available that we've never seen before during any particular war. That said, we do want to be able to pivot around and lift up some individuals that are actually using social and sending out some incredible information and are dialed into this. One individual in particular that we wanted to reference, and we'll go through a number of them, was Tim Solo, who is the CEO of Hrefs, and Hrefs has been a sponsor for the show before, and we certainly appreciate everything they're doing right now. Tim has actually backed away from any type of marketing communication and has solely dedicated his social media, his Twitter account, to a daily thread of information, as his hometown is in Ukraine, and he's actually sharing information, 70 to 80 posts a day, curating what's happening and being able to show real photos and real messaging of true patriots of Ukraine and what's happening there. Have you both been able to see what Tim's doing out in that space?
Yeah, I saw that tweet where he said he was going to back off from marketing, and I did that too this weekend. I focused just on what I could do for Ukraine through my social profiles, and Tim's feed, I basically have been watching that and watching what he's been posting as incredible insights into, as you said, the courage and the bravery of people, and made me certainly feel incredibly thankful to the Ukrainian people from what we were saying before, and also incredibly shocked because he shared some quite shocking things on that feed as well. So if you do go on it, beware, there's some quite shocking things going on
There really
that
are,
you would be saying.
Yep. So, Morty, do you have a chance to have a look at what Tim's pushing out there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been one of the feeds I've been going to see what's actually happening. It was hard to focus on anything else over the weekend, and his feed, or his thread rather, was jaw dropping.
Yeah,
your heart has to go out.
We know a number of individuals in the Ukraine. That's the type of moment that you see that it's not. I mean, marketing still goes on. business doesn't stop. And part of, I guess, our responsibility as marketers is to make sure that business does continue, especially for the platforms that are represented from Ukraine and Russia. So, I mean, we know a number of companies in those platforms. SE Ranking, for example. There's also, I think Serpstat is also there, and Ahrefs certainly has offices there as well as other parts of the
Jet
country.
Octopus, I think, also is there.
That's right. That's right. Jet Octopus. Can you think of anybody else that's actually in that region right now?
I think Site Checker Pro are in there as well.
Yep, that's right. SiteChecker Pro's out there as well. There's a lot of SEO specific platforms that are there. So Tim actually did something pretty unique here. Is he actually posted that if you actually donate and demonstrate donation, they'll actually extend. If you're a member of Ahrefs and you have an account with Ahrefs, they'll extend it. I think doubling the amount that you're actually donating. And extending the membership into the future there. So that's a great way. And I think they're also doing some matching fund contributions as well. Morty, your company actually did something here just astounding. They actually helped a number of Ukrainian refugees come across the border.
This is very moving for me personally.
Sure.
So yeah, Wix evacuated. We have a large team in the Ukraine. Two members of the SEO product team that I work with are currently part of this. We evacuated 1,000 people, moved them to Poland and to Turkey. And this is not in the article, but I'll just tell you because I'm at the company.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a doc going around saying, hey, people were interested in asking, hey, like, if these people are stuck in hotels in Turkey and they're just not happy, like, we're happy to host them here in Israel and in our houses. So there was a whole Google doc going around asking, like, do you want to sign up? How many people can you host? How long can you host them for? The whole company is really rallied around the team there, and I was getting choked up. Like, it really moved me.
Yeah. They're paying for transport, accommodation, and food.
Everything. I mean, food, hotels, they're trying to find more permanent solutions for them. I'm really proud of what we're doing.
Absolutely.
It's really moving.
Absolutely. It was amazing. And kudos for that type of rallying of an organization and employees of an organization. That shows that you're behind the mission, far beyond what is the business side of it. So we lift these guys up solidly. Jason, I wanted to make sure that we pivoted around and showcased an individual that's communicating regularly right now, and we're actually watching from afar. Anton Shulke, you work with him daily. Can you tell us a little bit about Anton's story right now?
Yeah, I mean, Anton, amazing guy. He's brought me to a great love for Ukraine and brought me to meet lots of incredible Ukrainian people. And he is in Kiev. He stayed in Kiev. As you can see, this was a photo taken today. He went to the shops this morning. They stopped the curfew. He bought some beer. He sent me some pictures of the supermarkets. And what seems to be happening, at least kind of in the civilian life in the homes, is that people are looking after the elderly neighbours, going out and getting food, supporting each other, and trying to get some sleep, which is one of the things we don't necessarily think about. But when you don't sleep, you can't think. When you don't sleep, you get scared. When you can't sleep, your life falls apart around you. And so getting sleep is incredibly important. And, you know, he's being incredibly phlegmatic about it. And I can't believe how he is saying, we're just getting on with it. Life goes on. We need to carry on. And for tomorrow, for example, we've got our Kalicube Tuesdays, which is the live event. And I was thinking about cancelling it. And he said, no, let's do it. And if he can do it, he will be there. He's the production manager on Kalicube Tuesdays. And if you can't be there, I said, well, maybe we should cancel it. In that case, he said, no, let's get Doc Sheldon to replace me. And so from that perspective, he and Doc are talking about, let's get a little bit of normalcy.
Yep.
Obviously, we need to keep fighting for Ukraine. We need to keep supporting the Ukrainian people. The world hasn't stopped yet. And I spent a weekend just focusing on that, and now I'm focusing on both. And It's I think a really, really positive attitude. And he sends every morning, or he posts it on social media, his coffee shot, which is him with a cup of coffee, photograph of him to show that he's okay, to show that he's still his morale is still high, and we're calling that hashtag coffee shot. And I think that's a really nice way if people have the courage and the desire to do it, posting out saying, I'm okay. Absolutely. With coffee shop. I love it. Anton's idea, absolutely brilliant. And that picture, he actually said, people have forgotten about Corona. And that's why he bought the Corona beer. He bought Corona beer because it's a joke, because it made him smile. It made me laugh out loud. That is a great person.
Absolutely. So we're watching. And he's sharing a lot about what he's going through right now. Aleyda Solis is also lifting up, international SEOs, lifting up a lot of people who are Ukrainian SEOs. And follow her because she's having a number of tweets about that and also showcasing a lot of information as well during this crisis. You mentioned somebody, Jason, a lawyer that you met on your trip to Ukraine, and I want to make sure that we got some of his information out. Tell us about Ievgen and what kind of information he's giving you regularly.
Yeah, Ievgen Saveliev. He's a Ukrainian lawyer. I met him when I was in Ukraine the last time. He did an interview of me in the middle of the street with the cars and trucks going by 6 months ago. As you can see, he has one of the kindest, most delightful faces in the world. Incredibly smart guy. And he called me about a month ago to talk about how they all felt about the Russian presence around the borders. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as the invasion happened, he's been feeding me information of reliable sources and reliable places where you can give money and support for where you can go to protest in different countries. And what was lovely about that is I trust him implicitly, and I could be confident that what I was sharing was the right stuff to be sharing. And he just literally sent me a message about 20 minutes ago saying what we now need for the people who have evacuated, the refugees, is legal representation. So if we can find some legal representation for the refugees who are arriving in Europe, that is another great step where we can help concretely the Ukrainian people with what's going on.
Very good. Very good. You gave us a link, and we're going to put it in the show notes here. We're also going to put a link that you can go to right off this podcast. It's edgeofthewebradio.com/Ukraine, and that will forward over to this link right here. There's real ways that you can help Ukraine as a foreigner, and this has been vetted information here, and it gives access to global help to be able to donate, humanitarian help, join a protest in your city, hosting Ukrainians, localize and be able to share information, read info from the source as opposed to spun information. It gives you links to be able to post in social media. You can also influence authorities directly. You can also sign petitions as well as advocate entry into Foreign Legion. There's a lot of local tips as it applies to different regions of the country. This is a great reference document to be able to help separate fact from fiction. It's certainly a place where we want you to go and lift up in social media space. Do you want to say anything more about the resources that he's giving you, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I think really it is that one of the worries that I think we all have is, am I giving to the right places? Am I helping in the right places? Is what I'm doing, the little I can do from outside, is it actually directly helping people in Ukraine? And through what Ievgen's been telling me, the answer with this set of resources is an absolute yes. So, you know, I've sent an email newsletter earlier on and said, if you've already donated, if you've already done something to help, do it again.
Yep, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, final thoughts about this particular show here. I know this is a little bit off of our regular beaten path, but I thought it was important to bring you two in as your continued friends of the show to be able to get some international perspective on this. Morty, final thoughts on this?
I just nothing else to say other than you just hope this ends really quickly and everybody stays safe.
Yeah, I'd say stay safe too. Obviously, people in Ukraine, keep fighting. And from my perspective, at least, and a world perspective, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you for your participation in this unique show, and we certainly appreciate what you're doing and sharing what you're doing out there. So you do what you can in this particular time of crisis. All right.
Thanks a lot, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. That's it for the show this week. We'll be back throwing around SEO information regularly in next week's episode. But we wanted to make sure we pause for a moment and be able to let you know what you can do during this crisis. So check the show notes. We'll have them up very promptly to be able to go to these links and also connect with the people that we've showcased on this show. That's it for this Week in Edge. Be sure to check out the second segment of the Matul Gandhi interview we did for SEO Clarity. Make sure you comment and subscribe to the YouTube channel here, but more importantly, do what you can do to be able to lift up Ukraine and to be able to give some confidence and support to individuals that are actually showing what's going on inside Twitter and Facebook, because we want to make sure that that visibility is front and center as this crisis unfolds. And what an incredible change in direction as the Ukrainians have such an incredible resolve to be able to fight back. That said, stay safe, stay well, and don't be a piece of cyber drift. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.